happy resurrection day. 1 Corinthians 15:3 and 4. For I delivered unto you first of all that which I also received, how that Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures, and that he was buried, and that he rose again the third day according to the Scriptures. John 11:25. Jesus said unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And so Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor, gave order that Jesus should die on the cross. The Roman soldiers then took Jesus and beat him again most cruelly, and then led him out of the city to the place of death. This was a place called Golgotha in the Jewish language, Calvary in that of the Roman, both words meaning the skull place. With the soldiers went out of the city a great crowd of people, some of them enemies of Jesus, glad to see him suffer, others of them friends of Jesus, and the women who had helped him, now weeping as they saw him all covered with his blood going out to die. But Jesus turned to them and said, Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For the days are coming when they shall count those happy who have no little ones to be slain, when they shall wish that the mountains might fall on them, and that the hills might cover them and hide them from their enemies. They had tried to make Jesus bear his own cross, but soon found that he was too weak from his sufferings and could not carry it. They seized a man who was coming out of the country into the city, a man named Simon, and they made him carry the cross to its place at Calvary. It was a custom among the Jews to give to men about to die by the cross some medicine to deaden their feelings, so that they would not suffer so greatly. They offered this to Jesus, but when he had tasted it and found what it was, he would not take it. He knew that he would die, but he wished to have his mind clear and to understand what was done and what was said, even though his sufferings might be greater. At the place Calvary they laid the cross down and stretched Jesus upon it and drove nails through his hands and feet to fasten him to the cross. And then they stood it upright with Jesus upon it. While the soldiers were doing this dreadful work, Jesus prayed for them to God, saying, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. The soldiers also took the clothes that Jesus had worn, giving to each one a garment. But when they came to his undergarment, they found that it was woven and had no seams. So they said, Let us not tear it, but cast lots for it, to see who shall have it. So at the foot of the cross the soldiers threw lots for the garment of Christ. 2 men who had been robbers and had been sentenced to die by the cross were led out to die at the same time with Jesus. One was placed on a cross at his right side and the other at his left. To make Jesus appear as the worst, his cross stood in the middle. Over the head of Jesus on his cross they placed by Pilate's order a sign on which was written, This is Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. This was written in 3 languages, in Hebrew, which was the language of the Jews, in Latin, the language of the Romans, and in Greek, a language read by many people throughout the world. Many of the people read this writing, but the chief priests were not pleased with it. They urged Pilate to have it changed from the King of the Jews to, He said, I am King of the Jews. But Pilate would not change it. He said, What I have written, I have written. And the people who passed by on the road as they looked at Jesus on the cross mocked him. Some called out to him, You that would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross. And the priests and scribes said, He saved others, but he cannot save himself. Come down from the cross, and we will believe in you. And one of the robbers, who was on his own side, beside that of Jesus, joined in the cry and said, If you are the Christ, save yourself and save us. But the other robber said to him, Have you no fear of God to speak thus while you are suffering the same fate with this man? And we deserve to die, but this man has done nothing wrong. Then this man said to Jesus, Lord, remember me when thou comest into thy kingdom. And Jesus answered him, as they were both hanging on their crosses, Today you shall be with me in paradise. Before the cross of Jesus, his mother was standing, filled with sorrow for her son, and beside her was one of his disciples, John, the disciple whom he loved best. Other women besides his mother were there, his mother's sister Mary, and the wife of Cleopas, and a woman named Mary Magdalene, out of whom a year before Jesus had sent an evil spirit. Jesus wished to give his mother, now that he was leaving her, into the care of John, and he said to her, as he looked from her to John, Woman, see your son. And then to John he said, Son, see your mother. And on that day John took the mother of Jesus home to his own house and cared for her as his own mother. At about noon a sudden darkness came over the land and lasted for 3 hours. And in the middle of the afternoon, when Jesus had endured 6 hours of terrible pain on the cross, he cried out aloud words which meant, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" Words which are the beginning of the 22nd Psalm, a psalm which was long before had spoken of many of Christ's sufferings. After this he spoke again, saying, "I am thirsty." Someone dipped a sponge in a cup of vinegar and put it upon a reed and gave him to drink of it. Then Jesus spoke his last words upon the cross. "It is finished. Father, into thy hands I give my spirit." And then Jesus died. And at that moment, the veil of the temple between the holy place and the Holy of Holies was torn apart by unseen hands from the top to the bottom. And the Roman officer who had charge of the soldiers around the cross saw what had taken place and how Jesus died, and he said, "Truly, this was a good man. He was the Son of God." After Jesus was dead, one of the soldiers, to be sure that he was no longer living, ran his spear into the side of his dead body, and out of the wound came pouring both water and blood. Even among the rulers of the Jews there were a few who were friends of Jesus, though they did not dare to follow Jesus openly. One of these was Nicodemus, the ruler who came to see Jesus at night. Another was a rich man who came from the town of Arimathea and was named Joseph. Joseph of Arimathea went boldly in to Pilate and asked that the body of Jesus might be given to him. Pilate wondered that he had died so soon, for often men lived on the cross 2 or 3 days. But when he found that Jesus was really dead, he gave his body to Joseph. Then Joseph and his friends took the body of Jesus down from the cross and wrapped it in fine linen. And Nicodemus brought some precious spices, myrrh and aloes, which they wrapped up with the body. Then they placed the body in Joseph's own new tomb, which was a cave dug out of the rock, in a garden near the place of the cross. And before the opening of the cave they rolled a great stone. And Mary Magdalene and other Mary and some other women saw the tomb and watched while they laid the body of Jesus in it. On the next morning, some of the rulers of the Jews came to Pilate and said, "Sir, we remember that this man Jesus of Nazareth, who deceived the people, said while he was yet alive, 'After 3 days I will rise again.' Give orders that the tomb shall be watched and made sure for 3 days, or else his disciples may steal his body and then say he is risen from the dead, and thus even after his death he may do more harm than he did while he was alive." Pilate said to them, "Set a watch and make it as sure as you can." Then they placed a seal upon the stone so that no one might break it, and they set a watch of soldiers at the door. And in the tomb the body of Jesus lay from the evening of Friday, the day when he died on the cross, to the dawn of Sunday, the first day of the week. On Sunday morning, 2 days after the death and burial of Jesus, some women went very early, as soon as it was light, to the tomb in the garden. One of these women was Mary Magdalene, another was also Mary, and another was named Salome. They were bringing some more fragrant gums and spices to place in the wrappings upon the body of Jesus. And as they went, they said to each other, "Who will roll away the stone for us, the great stone at the door of the cave?" But when they came to the cave, they saw that the seal was broken. The stone was rolled away, and the soldiers who had been on guard were gone. There stood the tomb of Jesus, all open. They did not know that before they came to the tomb there had been an earthquake, and that an angel had come down from heaven and rolled away the stone and sat upon it. When the soldiers on guard saw the angel with his flashing face and his dazzling garments, they fell to the ground as though they were dead, and as soon as they could rise up, they fled away from the spot in terror. So when the women came, there was no man in sight. As soon as Mary Magdalene saw that the tomb was open, without stopping to look into it, she ran quickly to tell the disciples. A moment after she had gone, the other women looked into the tomb, and they saw that the body of Jesus was not there. But they saw sitting at each end of the tomb a young man clothed in a white garment. Their faces shone like angels, and when the women saw them, they were filled with fear. One of the angels said to them, "Do not be afraid. You are looking for Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He is not here. He is risen, as he said, that he would rise from the dead. Come, see the place where the Lord lay. And then go and tell his disciples, and tell Peter too, that Jesus will go before you into Galilee, and you shall see him there." 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 5 through 7 state, and that he was seen of Cephas, then of the 12. After that he was seen of above 500 brethren at once, of whom the greater part remain unto this present time, but some are fallen asleep. After that he was seen of James, and then of all the apostles. And John, in his gospel, in the 20th chapter, verse 31, but these things are written that ye might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing ye might have life through his name.